In response, Capcom made a character with Ryo's body and stance, Robert Garcia's face and ponytail, and then made him the worst character in the game.
Well, I've heard that one before.
Suh, dudes. It's your boy Agent Psycho, aka Sniper98. Double uploads aren't gonna be a habit, he said. Don't expect this to be a trend, he said. You shouldn't subscribe to this channel, this dipshit said. So when I decided to do the MHXA video, I figured I should just do MHXs along with it, given how much I figured I'd talk about these two in tandem, so here you go, a little something extra. Artoria Pendragon is a joke character who came from a fucking April Fool's joke of all things, and then became a 5-star in FGO because Nasu can't stop cranking out fucking saber faces. Either that or Takuchi just can't stop jacking off to him. She's a... let me rephrase that. She's supposed to be a DPS servant against sabers and saber faces specifically. She's a joke character, by the way. Oh, but Tuhu, if she's a DPS against sabers, she's an archer, right? Or at least a berserker? Doesn't make any sense for her to be anything else, right? DW wouldn't make dumb decisions like that, would they? Did I mention she's a joke character, by the way? Alrighty boys, Sony just yoinked all our money the other day from our New Year's shit, so it's about that time to farm the player base for their bank accounts again. Anyone got any ideas for a new SSR? Well, since Valentine's is coming up, how about we put in a 5-star version of Nero? She'll be like a support saber with targetable buffs with a single target MP. And we can even put her in a wedding dress to bait all the waifu fags to roll. Okay, a support saber who can use her skills on the team or on herself, and we only have one SSR saber with a single target MP in the game so far. Plus, we put her in a wedding dress. I like it, I like it. Hey yo, Nasu, got anything for us? Hello? Nasu? I know you're not working on Tsukihime Remake and you haven't for the past decade. Got any ideas for us? Remember that one April Fool's joke we did back in 2013? The one where we tried putting SEIBAH into Tsukihime? Yeah? What about it? Put that SEIBAH in FGO, bro. That sounds... fantastic. Okay, so to be exact, Saber Lily is a utility assassin who's strong against sabers and specifically saber faces, which is all of these. She also better pray to Nasu that Lost Belt Camelot doesn't drop Morgan Le Fay on her ass. Let's talk about her star gen first, because that's one of her strengths, and I'd rather start this off on a high note before I Wear Clothes bans me from his Twitch channel forever. Her star gen is actually insane if you think about it. Both of her passives contribute to star gen, with Riding EX buffing quick performance by 12% and Cosmo Reactor increasing star gen by another 10%. So a quick chain or brave chain with Squirtle's cards will produce quite a bit, and adding to this are her second and third skills, which are an invul skill that suspiciously looks a lot like Instinct, and an anti-saber class skill that doubles her star gen against them for 3 turns. Star of Saber complements her star gen very well to provide more stars to guarantee more crits, and Galaxy Meteor Sword is great when it actually applies. Her true limiting factor is her deck, in my opinion. A 2Q 2A deck is what prevents her from becoming a Murder Lolly tier star gen, if not even better. But the trade-off is that Lartoria has great MP gen thanks to this deck that lets her arch chain more easily and a decent MP charge stat. So as is, she can still be your go-to star gen assassin if you somehow only have MHX and not Jack, despite the fact that MHX hasn't been on Raid Up for over a year and a half. Your GSSR rolls must have been real weird, huh? She also has a bit of extra utility with her first skill, which, post-buff, first debuffs all enemies' defenses by 20%, and then puts an RNG stun on all enemies the next turn. Before, this was really finicky since the RNG stun only goes up to 80% and still is even after the buff, but the important thing is now the defense debuff is both immediate and guaranteed outside of enemy debuff resists, of course, so it's a nice piece of utility to have now. Ruler Toria's other major strength, if you can even call it that, is against sabers and saber faces. First, GMS gives her 50% extra damage along with the double star gem buff that we talked about earlier against sabers, both for 3 turns, and to clarify, this is against any saber, doesn't have to be against saber faces in particular. Her MP though is against saber faces specifically, since it gives her a super effective damage mod against them as its overcharge. She also has an MP interlude buff that upgrades its scaling, though it doesn't upgrade the anti-saber face mod itself, but it's still a damage boost either way. Now this is the part where the video gets good.
Toxicity time.
The biggest flaw in Salter's design, the one thing that DW will never give her that would be the be-all end-all in making her relevant in current content FGO, is the fact that she's not an archer.
And Pam, if you're dumping stuff on the street, this can all go.
What is it?
Shattered dreams.
Smells like rotten meat.
Also, yes.
In a game where we have servants who shoot water guns, explosive Nerf darts, flying intergalactic psychedelic fucking sheep, airbender shit, Vulcan laser beams, tow Sniper 98s, and Goodyears, all DW really needed to do was make Lalter be able to throw her fucking spaceship thing and call her an archer. Boom. Done. Easy. She's supposed to be a joke character, right? Might as well make her a lethal one while we're at it. Get me on the dev team, Luigi. I'll do my job right, unlike whoever you've got on there right now. There are two reasons why Malter not being an archer is really bad. For one, GMS is an extremely conditional skill. You have to be fighting against sabers, otherwise its buffs are fucking pointless, and it's like you're playing without a third skill. And that's counterintuitive to the game's mechanics, because the game tells you that assassins are strong against riders, not sabers. And besides, against riders, she's getting the standard double damage buff, whereas against sabers, she's only getting an extra 50%, and it's only for 3 turns on top of that before you need to wait for the skill to come back. And to reiterate, she's playing without a third skill against riders. Makes sense for an early game servant back when lots of the OG servants straight up didn't have third skills. The second reason is because MHXA, wait a minute, can fundamentally never reach her full potential since she's stuck as an assassin. It's either she fights Saber class SABERFACES and so she has access to her third skill, but doesn't have class ADV, or she fights her younger and cuter twin sister so that she does get class advantage but no access to her third skill, or she fights anyone in between and for the most part have neither class advantage nor third skill buffs, unless you get lucky enough to fight an enemy Malter at some point. By the way, good fucking luck if an enemy Caster Nero decides to show up. You might say that Lakshmibai makes up for this to an extent by still being able to put up good damage numbers against Saber class SABERFACES, since she does have a lot of things going for her in that department, as we discussed before. But MHXA still beats her out in that regard anyway because class advantage OP. And outside of very specific instances where you do have to fight SABERFACE bosses, it'll be tough finding the right targets to fight with Tart. So that means you'll probably bring her to fight against riders, which then means you're playing without an MP overcharge and without a third skill, like we said before. Maybe these limitations don't really matter as much to you, and if they don't, great, more power to you. But personally, I can't help but feel like she's always playing with some sort of handicap, and there's fuck all you can do about it. See how goddamn scuffed this servant is? But this is the kind of joke servant we have, so we gotta make the best of it. You can use her in one of 3 ways. First, as a general star gen, as mentioned before. The second is as an actual Saber Slayer support. If you want to run with the whole kill all the Sabers meme, you can just bring her as a hybrid DPS who can both star gen and fight like she's a berserker for 3 turns at a time, just without their class disadvantage, of course. Her Bond CE gives her a more dedicated support role though, since it buffs the whole party's damage against Saber class enemies by 20%, so there's that to consider. And the third way is to just use her as a fucking normie single target rider killer, which is honestly the best way to use her anyway. Why bother trying to big brain this kind of shit when you can just kick back and throw Mordred into the pit against riders? If you love using scuffed fucking servants, then Ogda might be the closet self-cessed fetish saber for you. What did you expect out of someone who's obsessed with alternate dimension versions of herself and chases after them all day? And that's all you need to know about Grey. Be careful though, she might, you know, cozy up to her too, like she did with Saber Lily back during Saber Wars. Grey also seems like her kind of type, like she's some kind of Saber Lily alter. Hey DW, there's another Saberface idea for you. Get to work! Thanks for watching, y'all. Next video is going to be on Thought Queen and her Dino Boy toy. Deuces.